Ugandans. I want to begin by thanking God, really, and I think all of us must thank God for taking us through 2021, and we must thank Him now for 2022, this new year, and pray that it will be different, that it will be a blessing for us as a country and for the world in general. Now, on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Sports, and on my own behalf, I'd like to thank our stakeholders who have continued to work with us on this journey as we prepare to reopen the education institutions in the country. Sometimes we refuse to continue to talk to you time and time again because we don't want to confuse you with so much information. But when there is so much talk in the social media and all over the place, then it's time to say something to you from the Ministry of Education for education in general. So I'd like to start by thanking all our stakeholders who really have worked with us as we do this preparation. We are grateful to the Prime Minister, we are grateful to the Ministry of Health and all the government ministries that have worked with us closely, and even the private sector who responded to our call for support when we called on education symposium. We called an education symposium last month, and many private sector agencies and officials were willing to turn up and help us. So we thank all of those, and we thank our frontline soldiers, the teachers, who have persevered through this season. We thank our learners and the community, because as I have always said, education is a shared responsibility. It's not just for government, it's not just for the learners, it's for the families, it's for all of us. So I thank all of you who have really been working with us as we talked about the preparation and as we discussed and even asked for support. In a special way, I want to salute all the head teachers now who have managed to renovate their respective schools, who have tried to give a facelift to the schools so that they create a conducive environment for learning as the children prepare to come back to schools. I thank the local government leaders. I thank the members of parliament who have helped us to supervise this work in their own constituencies at the grassroots. As we take this step of faith to reopen the schools, we are aware that there are still many challenges, but we are trusting God to lead us all the way. And I'm happy to say that the information I have is that the majority of teachers have been vaccinated, and they're waiting to go to school, ready and well prepared, having been vaccinated. Now, I must say something about the school fees. I have heard the outcry on the issue of unregulated school charges by both public and private schools. This issue, as I'm sure you can remember, is not new. In 2017, I had to appoint a committee headed by Professor Kayanja to look into the issue of school fees and guide the Ministry of Education to know how to guide schools. The committee examined the cost triggers for the escalating school fees, common additional non-receipted charges, other frequent non-financial requirements such as paper, the bags of cement, the toilet papers, and such things that teachers continue to charge the parents for. Now, the committee of Professor Kayanja recommended realized that there was need for the ministry to provide the guidelines for fees structures. This well-researched work has informed the ministry and on the issue of the school fees. So when it came up this time, we realized at the ministry that this is not just about COVID-19. It has been a problem. It comes up again and again, but perhaps now COVID-19 has just made it worse. But you remember, all of you, that on the 15th of December 2021, at the closing of the 28th Annual Education and Sports Sector Review Workshop, I did inform the country as follows regarding the management of school fees as schools reopen for academic year 2022. Number one, while non-UPE and non-USE implementing schools need to charge school fees to enable running of schools, the Ministry of Education is against arbitrary increment of school charges. And I said that then. Number two, the ministry's guidance is that parents should not be asked to pay higher school fees than what they were paying before school closures. Number three, the learners of the Senior 2 class of 2020 who had fully paid up school fees should not pay first term's fees when they report in their former school for the new academic year that starts on the 10th January 2022. As a follow-up to my communication, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education and Sports issued detailed guidelines on reopening of education institutions. Now, in regard to school charges, the guidelines provide that 1. S2 learners who had paid full fees when they reported back for the term, which started on 31st May 2021, they should not be charged any more fees for the first term of 2022. I hope parents are listening, teachers are listening, and I wish you could perhaps sometimes get a pen and a paper and write down these guidelines, because I know that social media come up and bring up new ideas and they confuse you. But this is the Ministry of Education guidelines that we gave you before, and I'm repeating for you today. I want to repeat this one. The S2 learners who had paid full school fees when they reported back for the term which started on 31st May 2021, they should not be charged any more fees for the first term of 2022 when they report to their former schools for going now into senior 3 class. Number 2, the S2 learners who had not completed paying the fees when the schools closed on the 7th of June 2021. These should complete paying only the balance of the school fees which they had not yet finished when they report back to their former schools for S3 in January 2022. Just a few days ahead of us now. Number 3, education institutions shall engage their parents or guardians to adopt flexible fees payment arrangements and allow payment in appropriate installments. Because everybody understands the problems people are having. It is true that the schools also have need for money, but schools also understand that parents have issues with money because many of them have not been earning the income they normally use to earn. Number 4, the management and governance of all education institutions shall review institutional annual work, annual work plans and budgets to realign them with the changes in education institution programs and priorities. Number 5, during this COVID-19 emergency period, schools should avoid implementing major infrastructure development and asset acquisition budgets that are funded from parents' contributions. And I'm sure you understand why. But now, let's just wait, hang on, not go into new infrastructure development or acquisition of budgets at this moment. 6, education institutions shall not increase fees from what was charged for first term 2020. I repeat, education institutions shall not increase fees from what was charged for first term 2020. Now, in spite of this clear guidance, I have been disappointed to learn that some schools, both private and public, have issued circulars to parents indicating blanket additional fees for S3 and increment of fees for other classes. We have also received reports that some schools are asking parents to pay for COVID-19 tests or present negative results of their children's COVID-19 tests before the children are allowed into schools. We think that this is likely to increase costs of education on many families that are already financially constrained by the effects of COVID-19. Moreover, the technical guidance from Ministry of Health says that it is better to emphasize the preventive measures against the spread of COVID-19, including vaccination for the eligible population, social distancing, hand washing, and wearing of masks. Therefore, I like to guide as follows. 1. The guidance on school fees issued by the Ministry of Education and Sports should be adhered to by all schools, as I have just said. 2. The managers of schools are advised to put on hold for a while major infrastructure development projects that are funded from parents' contributions. 3. A negative COVID-19 test result should not be a precondition for allowing learners back in school, especially those ones who are under 18 years old who are not being vaccinated. And I'll say a little more of this. Therefore, schools should desist from charging parents for COVID-19 tests or requiring that learners present negative results of COVID-19 before they are allowed in school. This is not just being difficult. This is because people think that sometimes these requirements are used as an excuse to make parents pay. So we think that instead, schools shall effectively implement the COVID-19 standard operating procedures for education institutions and the COVID-19 school-based surveillance mechanism for early detection, reporting, management, and referrals of cases in the school setting to prevent the spread of infection. We believe that schools are working with health centers close to the schools. And when there is any suspicion that children are not well, it's better the schools to take children to the health centers to get them tested to confirm which way is their status. Are they sick? Are they okay? Instead of saying you won't get into school unless you give money for your test or unless you bring the COVID test card, and yet there are fake result cards in town, which people can just bring along, and those won't be of any help. The schools should also ensure that all staff and learners aged 18 years and above, those ones should be vaccinated. And as you remember, when universities were opening, we helped them to have vaccination centers at the university campuses so that those who were not vaccinated at home, they could be vaccinated at the universities, so that we ensure that all university students who are 18 and above can be vaccinated before they are allowed in the school. The school management, working with a nearby health facility, should guide and support learners aged 18 years and above who are not vaccinated to be vaccinated before they are allowed in school. Schools in Kampala, in Mpigi, in Mukono, and Wakiso are further guided to follow the staggered reporting schedule issued by the Permanent Secretary to minimize congestion at transport terminals, which could put learners at the risk of COVID-19 infection and other challenges, like happened last time when the students were going home. In conclusion, I'd like to inform the country that the Ministry of Education and Sports is taking steps to comprehensively but fairly and equitably address the issue of unregulated school charges. Finally, I appeal to the managers of schools to appreciate the financial challenges that most families are being faced with under the current circumstances, and the spirit in which the Ministry of Education and Sports guidance on school charges for first term on 2022 is being made. Please understand. The ministry will not tolerate situations where parents are charged school fees twice, or where unrealistically high charges are imposed on parents. I thank you for listening to me, and I want to use this opportunity to welcome all students and learners back to school we are all excited to see this happen in our country again, because we've waited long for it. Thank you so much, and God bless you.